Hi, Lauren Delsack here. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the astrological activity going on for Bill Gates, as well as his wife a little bit, over the next 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022, particularly in lieu of everything that's going on right now, and his big push with his vaccines and what that could be, the implications of that. At any rate, my previous video, I rectified his horoscope, his birth time to 10:08 p.m., so you can look at that. I'll put a link in the description for that video, and that's the horoscope I'm going to be using, the birth time, because of the important transits that are hitting the angles of his birth chart. I want to start with March 2020, when it was announced that he had left his position on the board with Microsoft in order to devote all his time to his endeavors with global health. Okay, so let's look at those transits right there. In March, April, we have the last hit of transiting Uranus opposed his sun. We have transiting Saturn opposed his ascendant. And we also have the first hit of transiting Neptune square the North Node, which is extremely important because 20 years ago in 2000, when him and his wife opened their foundation, okay, for their immunization of the world, that was in 2000 when transiting Neptune was semi-square the North Node, okay? So we can look at the Neptune symbolism, sure, as drugs, pharmaceuticals, okay, we get that. But I'll tell you one thing in my experience as an astrologer, working with a lot of clients over the past 30 years, generally speaking, what I have seen when transiting Neptune is an aspect to the North Node is many times there's deception involved. Usually the people, I always ask, who are you involved with? Are you involved with the wrong group of people? And I always get a confirmation on that. So it can be very untrustworthy. Now, the North Node relates to the public, large groups of people, okay? So in an average, in a normal person's horoscope, this can be fishy connections and contacts with people that are not so good for you. However, looking at Bill Gates and what he's doing, maybe the Neptune symbolism comes in with the, aspect of pharmaceutical and drugs. I find it very interesting that a man that's involved in a micro technology, computer sciences, is messing around with vaccines. Well, everyone can do their own research on human microchipping. That's your business, what you look into in terms of that. But anyways, going back to these transits, so whenever Neptune or whenever an outer planet was aspecting the same point the last time, oftentimes it's bringing up the same themes, the same subjects. So this definitely relates to his foundation, okay, and the push on the vaccines. By the way, also in 2000, which is very interesting, in January 2000, he founded with his wife Gavi, Gavi, which stands for, reading my notes here, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, is a public-private global health partnership with the goal of increasing access to immunization in poor countries. Okay, so anyways, you get the picture there. So that transit of Neptune to the North Node definitely relates to going back to him establishing these foundations, okay? And now this is coming up again. And by the way, the transit, it started now transiting Neptune square North Node March, April 2020, and it will run until February 2021. Now, before I get into the activity going on in the next couple years with Bill Gates, I wanted to look at his wife's horoscope. We only have a birth time in place, August 15, 1964 in Dallas, Texas, so we don't have a birth time. However, I was looking over her current transits, but what really piqued my interest is coming up in 2022 when she'll have transiting Saturn opposed her sun. Now, the natal sun in her horoscope can absolutely represent her husband, and it's likely because of the transits I'm going to discuss going on with Bill Gates at that time. But the thing about transiting Saturn opposed the sun is that it's a very challenging natal, it's a very challenging transit to somebody. According to the great astrologer Grant Louie, he says that things are about as far away as they possibly could be. The career is changed or challenged. Major obstacles intervene in the life of the person, either temporarily or permanently. Self-destructive tendencies are possible, and he calls it the most challenging transit of a lifetime. Anyways, the reason why it's so important is because for me, that flagged the fact that something's going on with her husband, Bill, possibly either in the marital situation, which I'll talk about, and or with his career, and or with his health. Okay, so now let's go look at the transits, keeping in mind that she's got that transit coming up in 2022 into the start of 2023. Let's look at what Bill's got going on. I want to first look at two major solar arcs that are going on with him. One in the fall of 2021. The solar arc of Pluto will come up to conjunct his sun. That's major. And then he'll have solar arc Uranus coming up to conjunct Mars in his 4th house, ruler of his 10th, his profession. So we're talking here about home life and or profession in November 2022. Solar arcs basically kick in 6 months before they're exact, and they can run 3 to 6 months after they're exact. So these are the background themes we're looking at here. Now, with the solar arc of Pluto conjunct his sun, this can be for somebody, someone who is extending their prominence, okay? So it's sort of an empowerment. It can be an empowerment. However, don't forget that the sun is our life energy, and this could be debilitating to potentially his health, and it could potentially relate to finances. Since he's Cancer rising, the next sign, Leo, would be reference to the 2nd house of monies, but both of those solar arcs are going on in the 4th house. Okay, that's like his foundation, meaning his home life, this kind of thing, and the 4th and 10th can relate to home life and career. So now, so we keep that in mind as the background solar arcs. If it's, who knows what's going on in his marriage, but the point is that in 2022, if we're using an accurate birth time, and I'm sticking with the 10:08 p.m., transiting Pluto is going to oppose his ascendant. And not only that, but it's going to square Neptune. The last time transiting Pluto was square to his ascendant is when he broke up his partnership with the co-founder of Microsoft. I talked about that in the birth time rectification video. So we know that whenever Pluto is, for example, in that position opposed the ascendant, because we're talking about the seventh house. The seventh house is the public. The seventh house refers to his one-on-one commitments in business partnerships and or in his marriage. But Pluto opposed the ascendant is also, in terms of critical illness, that can be debilitating to the health center. The ascendant is our physical body. When you have a transit of Pluto to Neptune or Neptune to Pluto, this is a critical contact for matters of illness. I'm not predicting an illness for him, but I can tell you that my first book, How Emotional Conflicts Trigger Disease, an astrological view that I wrote like 15 years ago, this is basically confirming that the pressure that this man is under with the world, I mean, there's slogans like Kill Bill now because of people who are onto what he's trying to do through the push of the vaccines and his microchipping. So again, believe whatever you want to believe. I'm only telling you that this buildup in 2 years, 3 years, is going to lead likely to a critical health issue. You just can't get away from the transiting Pluto square Neptune and opposed his ascendant. And his wife is showing at that time transiting Saturn opposed the sun. It's talking about her husband. So either the marriage is breaking down, who knows, okay? But if he was a client of mine, I'd be discussing this with him. Maybe a partnership or a business partnership that he's got is causing power struggles, because that's what Pluto represents in that position, power struggles with others when it's aspecting the ascendant descendant, and or he's got critical health issues. With that transiting Pluto square Neptune, the old ways of doing things give way to some kind of pressure. And it strongly suggests that something has been developing that is plutonic in nature and yet unseen or possibly undiagnosed. So I'm telling you, he's coming in to some serious challenges and obstacles as he's approaching 2022, either for him in his personal life and or professional life. So we'll see what happens. But with the development that I discussed in a previous video on Saturn-Pluto cycle and what's coming ahead with these the pharmaceutical company that's pushing out this vaccine. Well, I mean, he's involved in this whole thing. Everyone can do their own research on what position this man plays in this whole thing. So it's going to be very interesting. And I don't think people are going to just cow down to having some mega billionaire who's a computer person pushing a drug on them. Anyways, it's more than obvious to me. Hopefully people will start to wake up and see the reality of how they're trying to manipulate and control the planet. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll wait and see what happens to Mr. Gates and his plan and foundation. I say it's not going to fly, and he's in for some serious problems leading up to 2022. Okay, be blessed. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye now.